Okay, I'm on. It's 10 o'clock. Okay. Oh, yeah, can you hear me again? Can you hear me again? Okay. Boker Tov, everyone. Very good Erev Shabbat.
Bring on. Welcome to all.
There was a great Rebbe in Poland in the middle of the 19th century, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Morgenstern. But he was the Rebbe that was called the Kotzker Rebbe. He's an iconic personality, different from the usual type of Hasidic masters. And he had a son-in-law who wrote the famous Sefer, the Avnei Nezer and the Eglei Tal. He was the Sochetshover Rebbe. He was a genius. He writes in the introduction to his own Sefer that when he was 14 years old, he knew the entire Talmud. He was a genius with a photographic memory. But he said he didn't know how to learn until he came to the Kotzker. And the Kotzker made him forget everything that he knew before and taught him from the beginning again. So he's a different, also a different type. We have in the rabbinic response that he wrote, he was a Gaon Olam. So he was very much in favor of that was the spirit of the time then, that Jews started to move back to Eretz Yisrael from Eastern Europe. And he was a supporter of that type of movement. So he writes there that he was once asked by the Chassidim why he himself didn't go to Eretz Yisrael. And he gave a very interesting answer, a Kabbalistic answer, but it has practical implications as well. He says that when you move to Eretz Yisrael, there's a different malach, a different angel that takes care of you. In other words, the angel we saw by Yaakov Avinu, and the angels ascending and descending on the ladder. So Rashi there points out the Medrash that the malachim of Eretz Yisrael were leaving, and the malachim of Chutz La'aretz were coming down because now Yaakov is going to leave Eretz Yisrael. So he said Eretz Yisrael has different malachim. He said, however, if I move to Eretz Yisrael, I will be supported only by money that comes from Chutz La'aretz. The Chassidim will raise money for me, and send it to Eretz Yisrael. So if the money is still coming only from Chutz La'aretz, he said, I'm not living under the Malach of Eretz Yisrael. He said, if I'm not living under the Malach of Eretz Yisrael, I might as well live in Chutz La'aretz, which is a Kabbalistic idea, but it has implications for us as well. The dependency always upon the Malachim of Chutz La'aretz, whatever form they may take. So in any event, he was the Avnei Nezer. So he had a son who succeeded him as the Rebbe, as the Sochenshover Rebbe, who wrote a famous work called Shem Mishmuel. And Shem Mishmuel is a commentary on the Torah, very Kabbalistic and very Hasidic, but again, it's pure genius. And I think the thing that differentiates that commentary from others is that he takes on difficulties head on. And he's never afraid to say his piece. So he deals with this question. He says he asked his father, he asked the Avnei Nezer about it. What does the Torah want here from Moshe? You told him not to come close. Moshe told him not to come close. Tell him again not to come close. Moshe says, I told him not to come close. He says the third time, tell him not to come close. So it's almost beyond comprehension what is involved here. What is he afraid of coming? What is this? Not only that, the Medrash says, the Gemara says, that when the Jewish people heard Kaviyachol, the voice of heaven, saying, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, they all ran away. They ran away. The Gemara says they're Yud Bez Mil, 12 miles, they backed away. And you can imagine, here's a volcano that's erupting. Kolos broken, thunder, lightning, volcanic ash, eruptions, the sound of the shofar. I mean, the description of Sinai is terrifying. That's why the Gemara says, Porcha Nishmosam. Their souls departed, they died, the Shah killed them all. The angels have to revive them. That's the metaphor of the Gemara. So what's the problem here, Penny Harrison? They're going to come and try and come closer with nobody. When the volcano is erupting, nobody is running towards the volcano. So he asked the Avnei Nezer, what's involved here? So the Avnei Nezer gave him a brilliant answer. And he records it in his Sefer in the Shem Mishmuel. We know in the Torah it is said, Hashem Yiseir Bo Bofia Mahar Poron. The Rebbe Shalom went to Seir. When Moshe describes again Matan Torah in Chumash Dvarim, the Moshe says that the Lord offered it to Seir. Seir is Esau, Edom. And then he offered it, Ofia Mahar Paron, he offered it to Yishmael. He offered it to Yishmael in the merit of Avraham Avinu. Yishmael is his son. And Avraham had prayed, Yishmael yichya lefanecha. That Yishmael should live. So it's not only a question of life of years, but that he should live. He should be eternal. He should also have a share in the Torah. He should be connected to eternity. And Esau is the son of Yitzchak. And Yitzchak gave him brachas. And he had the great schut of Kibbut Avim. So Esau also should have a connection. So the Gemara says that the Ribono Shalom went to Esau and went to Moab and offered them the Torah. He offered them the Torah. He said, I have a Torah, and you're descendants from Abraham and Yitzchak, and you're entitled to a share in it. So are you willing to accept receiving the Torah with all of the obligations and historical events that are bound to it? So the Gemara says the response of both Esau and Yishmael was my ktivei. What's written in the Torah? In other words, you offer to sell me something. I come to you and I say, I want to sell my apartment. So you naturally ask, how many rooms? How old is it? What's the condition? Etc., etc. That's the way of the world. Nobody buys something of great value without first examining what it is. So they said, we want to look up the Torah in Consumer Reports. We want to look it up and see, Mike Zimbe, what does the Torah say? You tell us, do you want us to take the Torah? What does it say? So when it came to Esau, to Har Seir, so heaven said, it says, Lo Sirtzach. You're not allowed to kill people. So Esau said, listen, there's 613 mitzvahs, we'll take 612, but Lo Sirtzach we can't take because that's our bread and butter, that's our living, that's who we are. We're warriors. And that was the bracha that Yitzchak gave us. Al char b'chotichya. We live by the sword. So how can we accept the Torah where the Torah says lo tirtzach? Went to Yishmael. So Yishmael said, well, what's in the Torah? So heaven said, Latino should not be immoral, sexually immoral. So they also said, listen, we can take 612 of the mitzvahs, but this is our business. We have harems. That's, this is our way of life. So we can't accept the Torah. So the Nebuchadnezzar asked, why did the heaven say to Esav lo tirtzach, they could have said to Yishmael also lo tirtzach. Why did they say to Yishmael lo tinov? They could have said also to Esav lo tinov. Because in these matters, they all were guilty. It was all a matter of their behavior. So Nezer says here, brilliant insight. He says the Ribono Shel Olam tested the nations of the world with what is their weak point. What is the matter that will be the most difficult for them to observe? Because if they say there, we'll do it, we'll accept it, so then the other matters which are less difficult for them, they will certainly accommodate. But on something which is the heart of their existence, which is their nature, so to speak, it's in their blood, it's their DNA, that's where the test came. So by Esav, that is lo tirtzach. Esav is willing to do everything, but he's not going to give up the sword. That's his nature. And Yishmael is willing to give up everything, but he's not willing to give up the ability to be immoral. That's Latino. So therefore, that's why they rejected the Torah. Now he comes to the Jewish people. And he says, so to speak, do you want to accept the Torah? And the Jewish people say, Na'aseh v'nishma. Oh, yeah. One Torah, two Torahs, two is better than one, give us everything. The bargain. Jewish people didn't say Mike Day. What's written there? They didn't ask the natural question. They jumped in and said Na'aseh v'nishma. So the Gemara describes the Jewish people as amo pizizo, a hasty, curious people that jump into things. That's the DNA of the Jewish people. Any new idea, we're there. Let's try it. We're an Na'aseh v'nishma people. That is our nature. Just as the nature of Esav is the sword, and the nature of Yishmael is promiscuity, the nature of the Jewish people is, let's try it. We're going to jump in. Don't care what the consequences are. I'm a pzizor. Since it's am a pzizor, since that's the nature of the Jewish people, so the Lord tested them and said, don't come too close. Because the nature of the Jewish people would be that they would come too close. Even in spiritual matters, there is offense. The Gemara teaches us, we know by tradition, that at the time of the Second Temple, most of the high priests of Israel, the Kohanim Gedolim, died after Yom Kippur because of the fact that they were not worthy to bring the incense offering. So that constantly they were replacing the Kohen Gadol. So we would think that, let's say, if this happened 5 times in a row, certainly 10 times in a row, every year we had a Kohen Gadol and he never made it for the next year. So we would think that people would be reticent to apply for the job. It's a suicidal task. You want to be the Kohen Gadol? Look, the Kohen Gadol doesn't survive. According to the Gemara, there were hundreds of Kohanim Gedolim in the Bayis Sheni, because none of them survived any length of time. Yet there's no shortage of candidates. Because the fact that they would be able to enter the Holy of Holies and come closer, so to speak, to eternal and spiritual fulfillment was something that they were willing to die for. There are things that people are willing to sacrifice their lives for. And that's the weak point, so to speak, of the Jewish people. We want to build a perfect world. That's our weak point. Not murder, and it's not promiscuity, it's not all the other things. It's the fact that we want to reach perfection. We want to be closer to heaven. The Haftorah that we will read, Shabbos, about the Navi Yeshayahu. So he says, "V'eres Hashem Yoshev al Kisei Ram V'Nisa." He sees heaven. He sees the Eternal One. Can never be seen. That's his goal. So therefore, the Rebbeinu Shalom has to warn them. Don't come too close. Look what happened with Nadav and Avihu. We're going to read about it in the Chumash a few weeks from now. The day of the dedication of the Mishkan, the 2 sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, the Kohanim, they bring the Ketores, and they're destroyed. Asher lo tzivisim. I didn't tell them to do that. They overreached. They came too close. If you come too close, there's a danger too. Terrible danger. And therefore, when Moshe goes up to Sinai, the Chumash emphasizes he goes up alone. Aaron doesn't go with him because there are problems. The Skanim, the Sanhedrin, they don't go up with him either. They have limits. Moshe is the only one. Lo chein avdi Moshe. Hel pe'adaber bo. Chol beisi nemonu. But aside from that, stay away. And that's what the Gemara means in the conversation between Yeshaya and his nephew, the king Chizkiyahu HaMelech. So Yeshaya tells him, "Bahade the kavshe rachmona lo moloch." In things that heaven has hidden, why should you attempt to know? Why should you push the envelope? You have to accept that there's a boundary, and that you can't come closer than the boundary. So v'gbalta solom. That's the lesson of the Jewish people. because that's our weakness. Our weakness is we don't want boundaries. We want perfection. We want to accomplish everything. We want to fix the world. Jump right in. And in order to warn us of that, so that was the test that the Rebbeinu Shalom made for the Jewish people. The same type of test that was made for Yishmael and for Esau in their weak point. So our weak point lies in Nasiv and Ishmael itself. To jump in without the consequences, without the realization. So in order to counteract that, we have this idea which floats throughout the Talmud and the Gemara that there are boundaries. That have to leave certain things alone. You say an old anecdote from Eastern European Magidim that a man was celebrating his 100th birthday. So all of his relatives how come you're so old? The Gemara never answers that, that he drank carrot juice or something like that. It says a trait. How come you're so old? How come you live to be 100? So he said, I'll tell you why. He said, when I was younger, things happened in life that to me were unfair, wrong. I had no way to justify them. I had no way to understand what was happening. So I had a dream one night. And in the dream, I saw my angel. And I said to him, this is wrong, and that's wrong, and this is unfair and wrong. So the angel said, everything can be explained to you. The only thing is you got to come up here to get the explanation. And if you come up here, you're not going back down there again. So I decided I'm never going to ask anymore why. Because I'm happy being down here. And that's part of this lesson. It's part of the lesson about us all. That's the weakness of the Jewish people. And the Torah wanted to emphasize it. Therefore, this is the mitzvah that's repeated 3 times. And that even Moshe's assurance is not sufficient. Because it's the DNA of the Jewish people. Today, people that reaches too far. And in that, there is an implicit danger that has to be foretold and prevented. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Stay warm. And be zolchen for Kabbalas HaTorah. Thank you.